Well, hello there, Kelton.
Hi, Krisserin.
Well, before we got on, Kelton's like, it's really dark where you are. You should get a ring light. I have a ring light on. It's raining in Los Angeles, which, doesn't happen often. It's pretty cold outside, 50 degrees.
It was 50 degrees in my house last night, okay?
Ugh. You probably slept well, though, right? Or no?
No. Are you kidding? I was freezing. I had a
Oh,
sweatsuit and socks on and a hat and a baby.
oh my gosh. No space heater? You guys need a space heater or something.
We do have a space heater, but the windstorm was so brutal and it lasted for 2 days and it just sucks all the warmth out of the house. So, sun is up today. It's still absolutely frigid in the house, but once the sun is up for a few more hours, it will be warm in here. So,
Amazing. There's a saying in Bulgaria. I don't know the saying in Bulgarian, but when it's like really cold but sunny, it's the type of sun that your donkey would die in.
I'm Krisserin Canary.
and I'm Kelton Wright.
Follow our quest to publish our first novels,
From first drafts to query letters
through inevitable rejection,
and hopefully eventual success.
from California
To Colorado, this is Pen Pals.
I love it.
I think there's like a Nordic saying that's like, there's no bad weather, only bad clothes.
Yeah, that I've
Um,
heard. That I've heard.
Yeah. And I'm wearing 3 shirts right now and I'm still cold. So
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here I am in my 80s sweater. No socks
I like
on.
it. I love the vibe.
Thanks.
All right, we have a lot to talk about. We have some fun stuff we're doing today. So we need to talk about our goals from last week. So Krisserin sent me her short story and the new pages of it. And I opened it on my phone and just read and read and read. And then you were like, "What did you think of the first ending?" And I was like, "What ending?" And I had just read right past it. It didn't feel like an ending at all. So your alpha reader or for your story was correct. There wasn't an ending there. It did feel like just like the beginning of the story. And I just kept merrily reading along and I got to the end and I was like, I want to read more.
There's not enough story there for it to be a book. So I need to figure out how to end it, honestly. The first ending was pretty violent. I'm surprised you didn't think it was an ending because there was like a kind of, murder.
I guess in my writing, there's like constant murders.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
like, well, yeah, that's part of it.
That's funny.
But all to say, I want the listeners to know that it was really good and really compelling and fun to read and like great details. And I'm so excited for them to get to read your book.
Oh, you're very sweet. Yeah, I am too. Hopefully, eventually, someday. God willing. Yeah, that was fun to kind of I just got like text messages from Kelton and I was like, what are you? I didn't even know what you were talking about. I was like, oh, she's reading my story. I get it now. Thank you for reading that.
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, your goals last week were to
I
query
was
more
gonna work. Well,
agents.
no, it was to work on
But
my
you were
chapter
working your
summaries.
chapter summaries. So how did that go?
I did, but I got a little derailed. Krisserin already knows this, but the agent who had reached out to me with interest got back to me without interest, which is kind
That's
of what
not exactly
No,
true.
no, let me tell the story how I'm going to tell the story. She's not
Okay.
interested in developing it into a book. That's without interest. I still love her. I still revere her, but it kind of matched up with like, I knew this book would be a hard sell to her in particular based on her wish list. And then she also pointed out some reasonable flaws in the proposal, of which I do not want to work on.
Well, she said it was hard for her to see it as a book without chapter summaries. That's what she said.
Yeah, but she also was like, your sample chapters, the parts you have written, aren't doing what you say this book is supposed to do. And so that's not just rewriting chapter summaries, that's rewriting the parts of the book that are written. And she said some nice things. I mean, like, one, it's amazing for an agent to give you any advice at all. So for the fact that she read it and had substantial advice and then apologized for not having substantial advice, I was like, get out of here, girl. You were very helpful. And she also said it's difficult to sell a memoir without a researched angle, which, I know she's right, but we've talked so much about how I don't feel like I want to do that. And then, she said she would be interested in reading it again if I developed it further, which is great. And then I did tell her in response to that, I was like, this is very helpful and I think very fair and generous of you, given it's my first time trying to ride into the rodeo. And then I did tell her the funny story about seeing her in my Scrivener file. So, as I told Krisserin, it's my first agent rejection, and it was the most promising agent connection. So I had to wallow a little bit. So I did get work done on my chapter summaries before I got that email. And then after that email, I was like, I need to just like not do this for like a couple of days. And I had texted it to the rejection to our guest today as well, because she is the friend who has been helping me on my proposal. And she also was like, go do something else for a couple days.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was funny when Kelton texted me about, I was trying to, of course, in my like typical way, see the silver lining in the feedback that was given. And Kelton, I think typically you have a little bit more of a doom and gloom response to things. And so I was trying to be positive and she was like, just let me be dramatic. Okay.
yeah.
But
I was
fair
like,
enough.
I need to feel the feelings in order to get them out of my system. And this was one of the reasons I had been so protective of my nervous system around this, is because I was like, the most likely response is no. And like, I do feel like I did myself a favor by being like, it's not going to happen. But it's still, you still want the ease. You want someone to just go, yeah, yeah. And sinking into the reality that this is a game of no's is challenging.
Yeah. So with that said, I have a question for you about
Hit
it.
me. Yeah.
Okay. I've been thinking about it a little bit, and there's really, I think, two ways of going about this nonfiction book. And I feel like there's a memoir path and there's a nonfiction book path, which is a little bit more academic and researched. And it made me think of your friend who was like, you can't call it the ecology of whatever if, if you're not an ecologist.
You can't use
right?
you can't use the word ecology in the title if you're not an ecologist.
And I think that there is a part of you that wants to bear credence, and you have these like real ideas about how the world works that you want to talk about in your book, but you don't want to do lots of research. So that, I think, is at odds with each other. And then on the other end, you have personal anecdotes that you're telling about how you found home, which you are an expert in. And I think that you're trying to ride the fence of both ideas.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it would serve you more to focus more on your personal story of how you found home and sprinkle in some of these ideas, but not give your memoir this framing of like, these are the 5 ideas that I'm going to talk about, and here's how I'm going to tell the story. Because I feel like that requires more research and the type of work that you don't want to do.
And, part of it is that I don't want to do the research on this idea. I feel there, you know what? I'm actually not going to share the reasons I don't want to do that type of research. I want to spend more time in my head thinking about how I would articulate them to a wider audience. But I think the other end of the spectrum, where it becomes just personal memoir, very, very hard to sell. And I would work with probably a small indie press and not get an advance, do the book for free, and sell to the 400 people who'd buy it. And, to me, I have to be honest, that path to authordom, being an author again, I've already written a book, that path is not interesting to me. It doesn't make any money. It takes a ton of work. It has no credence to it. It's deeply unlikely that book would just become a runaway success for no reason. So without some kind of commercial framework, I don't know that this idea is worth pursuing, because those essays could all just be on Shangrilogs where I already get paid.
Yeah, I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because I still think that this concept of finding home is marketable, but we can let you marinate on that a little bit. I just think that if you do want to go the other route, you are going to have to do more homework.
Yeah, I'm still being a bitter little bunny.
It's okay. You're allowed.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
Yeah.
Well, and just to speak to that a little bit, I did have my meeting with my agent. And it was very enlightening. I learned so
Yes.
much. It was such a great conversation. So one thing that I will say is like we chatted a little bit about book deals, and someone that we know whose first book deal was less than the Emily Zips average that we talked about last week. She basically got published by a Big Five publisher and got no advance, like very, like nothing. And she's gone on to publish so many books since then. It opened so many doors for her. And so there is something to that path.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I also saw another future guest of ours, Courtney Mom. She wrote in her newsletter the other day that her advance on a book of hers I love was $4,000. But that book has utility. It's a book that you can check off the shelf for the next like 10 years. Use it. It's not a novel. And I think those books have a different lifespan. But she was like, taking that small advance, it kind of like unlocked the rest of my career to a degree. And I'll obviously ask her about that when she comes on the show. But I hear that point. I'm just like, I'm still just disappointed. So it's going to color all of my feelings for the next several weeks.
But also, this is one agent's rejection.
Yeah, and I'm going to feel like this every time.
No, you can't. I'm telling you. I mean, I think that like this was and I felt the same way. Like I reached out to an agent on a book that she had interest in, and she was like, I'm no longer interested. And so I feel I completely understand where you're coming from, but we have to like, build ourselves up because the rejections are going to keep coming.
Yeah, but
they'll be way less generous than this one,
You have to recognize your own system for success. And for me, getting mad works as fuel. It's just
Okay.
it takes a second to convert the fuel.
Okay.
And so like I know that this is how I operate, and I just got to respect it a little and be mad at myself and be disappointed in myself, because that is what spurns me on to greatness. I don't want a pat on the back,
I'm not patting you on the back, but this is not a failure. This is not a failure for you.
Every single one of these is a failure. How could
No, Kelton.
Every time you don't get a job, is that not a type of failure?
No, and you know what's funny? And I don't know if we talked about this last week, but you know how on social media be like, a year ago, you posted this thing. I got that notice on the Pen Pals TikTok where it was like, a year ago, you posted this video, and it was a video of you talking about agents and how it's like dating. And sometimes you sit down and you have a meal and you're excited about it, but it's just not your person and you can't take it personally. You got to like shake it off and move on to the next one. So that was literally you a year ago. And now that you're in it, you're not taking your own advice.
I still agree with the sentiment, but you still have to have that time where you're like, he fucking stood me up. He dumped me.
Sure,
He didn't like me.
Sure.
It's like you do. While I still think that applies, because while I had those feelings in dating, I was dating other people, and that is what I will do now. I will keep querying. I will keep working on the project so that I can pitch this woman again. But
she did say to send it back, like to come back to her.
And like,
so that's a huge win.
I have to have feelings in the middle. I think it would be so disingenuous for me to come on and be like, well, I got my first rejection and I'm so happy to just be part of the process and keep going.
Totally.
It's like,
of course,
I gotta be mad while I'm swimming in this fish of sea.
Sure.
Spinning my little fins.
And listen, if I've learned anything in my 41 years of life, having, I think, 4 best friends who are Capricorns, it's that you can't argue them out of how they feel about anything. And I know that you have to sit and feel this way. And it's just as like someone who tries to be, I don't know, I don't want to describe myself in those terms, but like, I see what you do, and I'm just like, be a little bit more gentle with yourself, because there's so much out of your control, and it's not 100% on you. It's so much also on that person that you sent it to, and extenuating circumstances that you have no insight into, and it might just be, you know what I mean? So you got to give yourself a little bit of that.
No,
you got to give yourself a little bit of grace there.
Being gentle with myself has never gotten me anywhere. And so I just... I did take some of your advice and try to like romanticize doing the work. this past week, but I gotta use my fury to get back out there.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I
We
just
have
hate that you're
a
like, I failed. I'm a failure. Like, that
well,
is not,
you're not gonna shake that out of me.
that would just shut me down. I would just like roll over and want to die if I thought about
Ugh,
things that way. But that's why we're different. That's why we're just
yeah,
different people.
that's why we're great co-hosts.
True. True, true, true. Yeah, well, a little bit about what I talked with Kima about, because I feel like she answered so many questions. First of all, I didn't realize that your bonus gets paid out in increments. Did you know this?
Mhm.
Bonus signing. Yeah. Some will do 50-50 at the signing at the pub date. Some break it up into 4 increments, which is like signing when it's delivered and accepted, when the hardcover gets published, and when the paperback gets published. Um, you don't earn any royalties out until make up your advance. And I guess 2 book deals they like work differently and get paid out in a more extended timeline. So it's actually not great to have it done that way. We also reviewed some of the deals that you and I have talked privately about, the like significant deals, etc. And we looked at those editors at some of the different publishers and we looked at all their deals. So we're like, okay, so this one was a 7-figure deal. And then we like looked that editor up and all the rest of their deals were small. So she said a lot of times what will happen is a publisher will have a budget and they'll blow all of their budget on one book and then everything else gets pennies. And it's
Interesting.
very common for people to get like $30,000, $40,000, etc. It
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
So, especially with big 5 publishers. So it was really enlightening. We went through a list of all the editors that we would consider and the one like she knows many of them and we talked about kind of how they work and what that would be like. And she's, reading the book, the updated manuscript, and the first 65 pages of the second book. And we're going to meet tomorrow and I'll review a pitch letter and then we're off to the races.
So exciting.
Yeah, so it was great. It was really great to touch base and get that download. And she took her time educating me on how all of this works. 'Cause I was like, I don't know anything. I don't know how any of this stuff works.
I'm
So
so excited to hear about this process. It's gonna be so I mean, hopefully it's so fun.
God, now of course all my TikToks are people who have agents going on submission and like hating their lives. It's like every part of this is so painful. But
Yeah.
we do have a guest that we should do a little intro and bring her on for. So
Yeah,
Kelton, do you want to introduce our guest?
we're having my friend Cait on today. Cait Flanders is a best-selling writer and speaker known for her thoughtful work on consumption, money, and intentional living, very aligned with the things I like to read and write about. She's the author of The Year of Less, a Wall Street Journal bestseller that chronicles a year-long commitment to buying less and examining the habits beneath it, and also Adventures in Opting Out, which explores stepping away from hustle culture in search of a more sustainable life. And today she writes the widely read Substack The Lighthouse, which focuses on money, creativity, living deliberately, and she's working on her 3rd book. She is an internet friend of mine who I'm so happy to spend some time with on camera, a step up from the constant voice notes we are sending to each other about my proposal. So let's get into it. Here's Cait. I just read your bio, so the audience will be fully acquainted with all of your amazing work, and Krisserin will cut out all this yammering.
Yeah, I edit everything to make us sound good.
Great.
Sometimes you can hear the cat purring on the podcast if you listen close
Cute.
enough.
I've closed the door so that mine doesn't come in. She has a
That's
tendency
sweet.
when you start talking on video calls, mostly with Andrew, like he'll start talking on a video call and all of a sudden she's meowing at him. And he's like, "We weren't talking 2 minutes ago, but now because I'm talking to someone else, you don't like it?"
She wants they want attention. That's
This
sweet.
is something we have bonded over. Cait and my and Cait's friendship, sort of initially revolved around animal life. hedgehogs, coyotes, cats, etc., that connection to life other than our own was like a common
Mm-hmm.
through line in our writing and something that really drew me to you and then
Hmm.
opened me up to your catalog of writing. And I had
Hmm.
mentioned when I was saying your bio, The Year of Less and Adventures and Opting Out, they're just like they're so resonant with me and so applicable to the way I choose to live my life. And conveniently, with the year of less, it now seems like it is applicable to many more people, which is funny because you
Yeah.
wrote The Year of Less in 2018. Can you kind of talk us through loosely, like the origin of that book and what's happening to it now?
Yeah, well, and in some ways, I wouldn't say I wrote it in 2018. It was based off of an experiment that I blogged about from 2014 to 2015. So now we're talking over 10 years ago. And, like I was 29 years old when I did that. And so the experiment at that stage, like certainly of my life and what was true for me or what kind of mattered to me at 29, it feels so young compared to where we're at now. It was just like this very simple idea to not shop with the hopes more than anything that I could actually save some money. Because I didn't identify as like a shopaholic or anything like that. It was just like I could tell that I kind of binge consumed or like yeah, like I had a history of binge consumption. And so it was just like this little experiment though of like I don't really seem to be able to get ahead. I'm making okay money. I should be able to be doing something, putting some amount in savings, and I never seem to be able to. So I was like, what if I just do this little experiment where I don't buy anything for a year? I blogged about it. Um, and of course, now the reasons that people are doing it, or like it's quite a big movement right now, is like they're different and there's a lot behind it, between cost of living, maybe political statements people are trying to make. Like there are all kinds of reasons why people are trying to buy less or just buy from different places or avoid certain places altogether, aka Amazon. Like there are certain movements that are happening right now which make a lot of sense. I think especially the cost of living thing, like everything obviously has gotten so much more expensive post pandemic. And but yeah, it's like obviously I could never have known that any of that was going to happen. But yeah, like so they're different, right? Like the reasons I did it were so different compared to what's happening now, but it does just happen to be lining up.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that 10 years later, you're still talking about a blog experiment.
Truly, truly. Like, and also something I never thought I'd still be talking about.
How does it feel to have an older book like re-enter in the conversation?
I guess in a way, it has always come up a little bit every year since it came out. I think because it was a year-long experiment, it is something people are drawn to reading in January every year. So sort of like December, January every year since it has come out, I have had a little bit of uptick, right? It's like, oh, you've got some new followers all of a sudden, or yeah, or have people reach out to you saying that they've just read it, they're going to try something kind of similar that year. That's happened a little bit every year. What's more interesting right now is I don't really feel like I'm getting contacted by people in the same way. So like in a way I would never have known. Like last year I figured out it had kind of gone viral again because someone else told me. So like I had a reader, like a longtime reader of mine, so like of my newsletters, etc., like who reached out to me and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I saw you're in like the top 100 on Audible something or other." And I'm like, "What? I am?" And so then like I went and looked and I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's right." You're like, well, that's weird. Like what's going on? And then you kind of look at say like Amazon, Audible, like in all the countries and you're like, "What's happening here?" And then it was people telling me like, "Oh, they're seeing it all over TikTok." And so I had no idea that it was happening. As for how it feels, I mean, I think I'm like quite detached from it because like once a book is out, it's really not yours anymore. Like that is true, at least like with nonfiction. Like it's not yours. It's what people are gonna take from it, what they need from it. So like I do feel quite detached and like certainly I don't have or I'm not the reason it's going viral. It just happens to exist. So I don't really feel anything. I guess like I am grateful that the resource is there. And then if we're talking about writers and how we make a living, the reality is like extra sales is great for me. But I guess I don't really feel a lot about it. It's more just like kind of fascinating to watch and enjoy the ride while it's happening because you also know how fleeting it can be.
Yeah. And there's a real lag with royalties, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't actually know how many copies sold last year. I know how many sold in the first half of the year, but I don't know anything about the second half of the year yet. And I'll know audio wise, I'll know that I think at like the end of March. And then physical and ebooks, I'll know at the end of May or June because those were separate deals.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's so
Yeah.
fascinating to me that in our modern system takes 6 months to add up.
Yeah, I mean, traditional publishing is probably one of the most archaic systems that still exist. And I don't know if there's a lot of chance of that changing, or at least anytime soon.
They
Parts of
have
it
to
make
know how
sense,
many
right?
they're selling. Are they just not sharing that information with you is the question. The information trickle down takes longer to the actual author because working in consumer packaged goods, I know within 7 to 14 days how much we sold in retail last month.
Yes, yes. I think part of it is, yeah, the system. Even royalty statements are very confusing. Like audio is the clearest because it's straight up just like this many, this many downloads. You're like, great, like that's so clear. Although I do feel curious how Spotify's coming into the mix. Like, I don't think that that's clear on statements.
Surprise, the Spotify's not clear about its business model.
Yeah, right.
Shocking.
Well, it's all
Shocking.
because I don't have Spotify either. So like I've never used it, but understanding that they have 15 hours or whatever that people can get of audiobooks for free. But like what if someone listened to 2 hours of The Year of Less or Adventures and then like do you get paid for a partial? No? Like I have no I have no
That's
Yeah.
such a great
idea.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I genuinely have no idea. So it's all, yeah. I also wonder with physical books how long it takes for them to calculate returns because those are on your statement. Like it'll show what's sold, but then it'll also show like just a large number of like minus 800 or whatever for the ones that were returned. So I don't know.
Wow. Wow. Something I don't have to worry about yet.
Not yet, but it'll be really fun when you get to look at your first statement and you're like, what does any of this mean?
Can you take us back in time and just walk us through your original path to publishing? What did end up taking this from blog to book?
Well, I mean, it was, I don't like to like, yeah, like downsell myself here because I know I put in some amount of work here, but it was sort of one of those classic stories from back in the day when blogs could go viral. And so I'd been writing about the experiment every month or sometimes every 2 months. Like I wasn't really that invested. I would write some kind of progress report every month or two of like kind of what it had been like. And like long story short, I did an interview with someone who I knew worked at Forbes, like just the website. And I did an interview with her for something else, like to give her a quote on somebody else that she was writing a profile on. And she was like, oh, and how's that little thing that you're doing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's all right. Like, I'm almost done. She was like, oh, like, let me know when you're close to being done. And like, we can do like maybe a profile on that. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. And like, really didn't think that much of it. And then we did the interview, sent her some pictures to go with it. And she emailed me the day that it went out, which was July 6th, because I did it on my birthday. My birthday is July 7th. So it was like the ban was ending like that day. And she released it and she sent me an email with the link and just said, just FYI, these things have a tendency to go viral. I didn't really know what that meant. I very quickly learned like what it meant of just like, yeah, people picking it up, like all the publications kind of picking it up and sharing snippets and whatever. And within 2 weeks, though, I had been contacted by 6 different literary agents asking if I wanted to turn it into a book. And I had no idea what to do with that because that had not been my plan. Like, I did not do the shopping ban so that I could get a book deal and write a book about it. Like, it was genuinely just an experiment that I was doing on my blog. And so, yeah, I really didn't know what to do, like, with that.
How
Yeah.
did you end up choosing an agent then? I mean, to not be even querying and then to have like minimum 6 offers, to not even have been investigating the field, like what was your path?
I reached out to one friend in Canada, because the other thing too that I was so curious about, like I'm Canadian, and all the agents in quick research, I could figure out they were all in New York. And so actually my first question was like, can we work with people who are in the States? Like, how does that kind of work? And so I had one Canadian friend that I could think of who had published a book maybe a year before. And I reached out to him and I was just like, can I ask you some questions? And I was like, and also, where is your agent from? And in the end, actually, he connected me with her because she was like, I'd be happy to talk to Cait, could answer any questions that she has. Now you also understand why. Like, it's like if an author is or a writer is like getting interest, agents want to get in, right? Like, it's like that's part of their business. And so
Yeah, this
now I
author's like,
understand
oh, I'd
this.
be happy to answer some questions. Send her my way. Don't
Yeah,
talk to those
but
other 6 agents.
well, no, what I loved so much though was like she gave me incredible advice. She said, talk to all of them, like set up calls with every single one of them, but you interview them. And remember, like it's so easy in publishing to put agents, editors, publishers like on this pedestal, but she's like, but you want to feel like it's a good fit. And her number one piece of advice was choose someone that you could imagine going into a long-term relationship with, because you don't want to write just one book, or maybe you do,
Right.
but like if you want to have longevity, if you want to have a career at this, you don't want to work with someone just once and then never talk to them again. So like try to imagine like who could you have a long-term like committed relationship with, which was great advice. And then she said, and if you don't like anybody, I'd be happy to like talk about working with you as well. So anyways, I took all the calls and it was actually really clear on my insides who I felt comfortable with and who I didn't feel comfortable with. There was one other who I was like, no, they're pretty interesting. They felt very down to earth. Like I need someone who's going to meet me at my level. And what I do find, or like something I have found, I guess, in some publishing environments is like sometimes people like, it feels to me anyways, like they're talking above me. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be that kind of author. I don't think I'm going to be like the esteemed literary author, you know? And I'm like, I need someone to just talk to me at my level because I'm Cait. Like, just talk to me like Cait. And anyways, I picked Chris's agent, Lucinda. She is who I ended up working with, probably not surprisingly, because she was just the most down to earth. She was the easiest for me to talk to.
You have said some really wonderful things about her in our time talking about my proposal. Saren and I, in the intro of this episode, were just talking about my first rejection, my first agent rejection that I shared with you this week. And again, how it's like dating and like you're right to call it like a long-term relationship. You got to want to be in the trenches with them. And, you know, I was telling Krisserin, I was like, I still don't like to get dumped. No,
Yes.
especially by someone I like.
Yes.
So like I agree with that analogy, but
I was
it's
trying to counsel her not to be so hard on herself, and she wasn't listening to me.
it's impossible.
I have things I'd like to say too.
Say them.
Yeah, you're welcome to say them.
No,
well, I should tell our listeners, because I have been like touching on this topic for weeks, that Cait is the one who has been helping me figure out how to approach my proposal, because you have had 2 successful, like somewhat memoir adjacent nonfiction books, and you've been successful in that. And so your advice has been like really helpful to me. But yeah, it's like it's still just my first rejection out of the gate is one I have to pile on to many. Unfortunately, I don't have like a cool experiment that people are latching onto. So.
Well, but actually, it's probably a good segue to say that, like, even though all of those agents were interested in, I then worked on a proposal with Lucinda, worked on the proposal for the Year of Less, which, like, as you are learning, like, they're no joke. It's like a 40+ page document typically in the end. It's a huge amount of work that goes into this thing that might get rejected by everybody.
At many levels.
Yes. And so even though Lucinda and I got it to a place where we were like, yeah, like this feels good, I could write this book, only one publisher wanted it. So even though all the agents think this could be a thing, right? In the end, actually, all the publishers are like, nah. And then only one said yes. So
that's amazing.
It's just so interesting. Like yes, people had interest. It went viral, and you know, agents think it could be a thing. Doesn't mean any of the publishers thought it was going to be a thing. So
it's so funny. I mean, I did want to ask, you've been super open about money in terms of your publishing journey. Can you
Yeah.
talk to us a little about your early advance and how long it took to sell out?
I think that even my relationship with the book, I think, has been so confusing for me to navigate since the start because of things even like I wasn't expecting to write a book ever, right? So, like, I think for that reason, I had zero expectations, almost probably very bottom ones, like very low expectations. So then anything that did happen is still sometimes confusing to like figure out how to talk about. But so the advance was 35,000 US, but they didn't, or they chose not to buy audio. And so that sold separately for 10. But then it was interesting because in the 35,000 advance, they also said if you could sell, I can't remember how many copies it was, like X number of copies though in the first 6 months or year or something, or like maybe just whenever it hits that, we'll give you a 10,000 bonus. So we could just say 45 as long as I sold X number of copies. And I don't remember how much that was. It might have been like 10,000 or some, I'm really not sure. I'd have to go back to figure that one out. But the book like really took off kind of right away. And it sold, I think because I've been looking at my old proposals now. And I think in my second proposal, it says that it sold 77,000 copies in the first 6 months. Now, a huge chunk of that, I think like 40,000 or more was ebooks. And that was like little things like it got a push from a newsletter that had a lot of subscribers. And then if they did like a promo at some point in the first 6 months, so where it's like $3.99 or $2.99 or whatever, and that sold a bunch. So ebooks were huge in the beginning. I out earned within my first 6 months. And so I got the bonus. And then I immediately, I mean, not immediately because royalties are quite delayed, but like it did immediately start earning royalties after that. Now, that has not been true for my second book. So my second book, I don't think I will ever out earn the advance. And it wasn't that much. It was 100 grand. So like, it's not like it's nothing, but I think once you do start seeing how the numbers can stack up, you're like, oh, it doesn't take an enormous amount to hit that. People could out earn 100. You can out earn that. I don't think we ever will on adventures. It came out in September 2020. And I think anyone who published a book in 2020 knows that, like, unless you were Glennon Doyle, like, no one was buying your book. Like, it's like sort of like, unless you were like the top authors who happened to have something coming out that year, yeah, like you were just, people were not buying your book. I mean, there were also a lot of movements that were really positive happening. And so a lot more books from people of color were being purchased. And there was a lot of like political stuff happening. And that was all good. And I think also all good for the publishing industry. But yes, like it was sort of like most people aren't selling anything. And then they all just kind of went away. Also because like publications folded, people stopped doing their podcasts. Like it was impossible to get press. Whereas like that was the total opposite for the Year of Less. Like it was almost like too easy to get an interview. But there was absolutely no appetite for covering books like in 2020. Like that was
A lot going on that year.
Yeah, there was a lot happening.
There's an election in the US, a global pandemic. What I did notice is The Year of Less and Adventures in Opting Out were published by two different publishers. Is that right?
Yeah.
When I talked to my agent last week, she was like, when I got my book deal with Knapp, I was like, I want to be at Knapp for life, you know? So how did that end up shaking out, having done so well at Hay House and then ending up at Little Brown Spark for your second book?
Yep. So it was, and this is common at least for like nonfiction, you'll often with your first book deal, just the publisher will want right of first refusal. Like they'll want to be able to see what you're doing next first. So I did all of that. Like I knew what my idea was. you then can write like a short proposal to your current publisher. So I think it was like 10 or 15 pages at the time, and kind of outline like what you're gonna do, what you'd like, what you'd like your second book to be. They have 30 days to say yay or nay. And Hay House passed on it. And so then I wrote a full proposal. We actually still sent it back to Hay House so that they could see the full thing. And it ended up being a bidding war between Hay House and Little Brown Spark. And so then it was just me deciding I wanted to try working with someone different. I and really love my editor from Hay House, but I think like I didn't feel that connected to the publisher and some of the other things that they were doing. They were doing anything bad. It's just sort of like it doesn't connect with me. And so I was kind of like, I'd like to try working with someone different and who's publishing books that feel more aligned. And so I thought I would give it a shot. In the end, I'm like, I don't know that it would have been different. I do think Hay House has an incredible inbuilt audience that when they promote their books, like they do sell to their audience, that I don't think that it's almost like people are fan followers of Hay House and they'll like ascribe to anything that they sell, you know? And I don't think that's true for a lot of publishers out there. So it is interesting to kind of reflect on some of those differences. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to try something different. I really connected with the editor at Little Brown Spark. What's quite funny now is that she is at Hay House, so now both my editors are at Hay House. And so like it is, and I have no problem saying this. I actually like really would love for my next book to be with Hay House because I would love it to be with them, like one of them. Like I think that would be amazing. So yeah, I really loved though the thoughts that my editor at Little Brown Spark, who's now at Hay House, had. And so yeah, I just wanted to try. But
So tell me your next book. I know it's like really early days. If you can tell us anything, I would love to hear. Even
well,
just how you're approaching it, because you and I are both Substack girlies,
yeah.
and that audience can feel really demanding. You have to constantly have output for it. And so, like, how do you carve out this other time for this third book? Where did the idea come from, and how did it feel like a book and not just like a Substack series?
Well, I think now that I've done two, you can understand what would have to go into a full book versus just, maybe 5 posts, 10,000 words spread across or something. Like, I think that you can figure that out, or like, I feel confident that it is a full book. But if I were to speak to what you're talking about, I would say that this is the biggest challenge for me right now is trying to divide my time between the projects, because the reality is, and this is almost like these are reflections and I'm trying to understand, like, is this actually who I am or can I do it differently? But my reflection from the past is that when I've been working on proposals and drafts, I have not done anything else. It's like my brain I cannot go at least into the like short form versus long. Like I did have the odd bit of like client work with the Year of Less, like when I was working on that one. So I did have to juggle that, but there was something about that was almost easier to compartmentalize. It's like Monday, just get that stuff done and I can just not think about it for the week or whatever. Whereas I think because like newsletters or blogs in the past, like it just feel like they're kind of like a growing entity. Like it is, there are people, there's something that there's an energy to it, right? Like that is a little different than say client work. And I don't know how to juggle the two. So it's a thing I'm really trying to sit with right now because my gut is to just stop. Like my gut is like just take a 2 month break and only focus on the proposal. What I'd say is like I'm trying to challenge that because also we got to make money. And like I actually don't think my audience expects me to show up all the time. I've expressed stuff like that before and people come back and like if I reflect on my own, like if you wrote once a month, Kelton, I would just be happy to be able to read what you felt like sharing that month.
You
You know,
know,
like
the rare times that I have skipped a Sunday, people have DM'd me to see if I'm okay. So like
Yeah,
a lot of my audience is like 8 a.m. Sunday morning. I'm
where
expecting that newsletter. And that
interesting.
which is amazing, amazing. I have those kinds of readers and like I
Yes.
cherish that. And but I also like, I fucking hammered that schedule into them too. I was like,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah. You
very
have been
beginning, I
doing
was
it.
like, you are going to get this newsletter on Sunday. But it's
Yes.
interesting to have an audience if you can just release that tension a little bit, let the line out a little bit to allow yourself some grace periods so that even if you're like, for the next 2 weeks, I am just going to think about this. And then the day after those 2 weeks is over, I'll just write from the heart into the newsletter and click send. So
It's
it's interesting to hear you balancing it that way because I am obviously like underwater trying to do all the things
yeah.
you're doing.
I do think it takes, it's like it's trial and error. It's letting the odd week pass, and then you look at the numbers and you're like, they haven't changed. It's okay. I didn't lose half my subscribers because I didn't show up for a week or two.
Mhm. You
I
lose
do
more
like,
subscribers from writing than you do from not writing.
yes, yes, you do. It's very true. So like
Yeah.
I think it takes a little bit of trial and error, but like for that trust to like build up in your body that like it's going to be safe to like take the time off. But I'm still in it right now, so I'm very much like pulling back slightly. I've written out for myself the three things I will write for the next 2 months. So like three things a month. But I've like written that down of like I will do one of this, one of this, one of this, and
Yeah.
that's it. And I'm just trying to stick to that because it's so hard. Is like you can be reading something, you're like, oh, I should write something on this, or I could tell this story, da, 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 and you're like,
Mhm.
just put it away, put it away, put it away, because like it's I don't know. But I still the first thing every time when I sit at my laptop, the first thing I open is Substack every day,
Yeah.
and so yeah, like it's I'm just trying. I'm trying. I can feel that the progress has started in the past couple of weeks. Where like today I sat down and like I wrote 1,000 words on the proposal, and you're kind of like, that was awesome. Like I didn't do any Substack today. I just sat and wrote 1,000 words. But I think like we do live in a world where like output usually results in money, and it's really hard when you are self-employed. I've been self-employed for almost 11 years now. Like it's really hard to take steps back knowing that like even though I have lots of history to tell me that I'm not going to lose all my income if I take a little time off, it's still there. It's still in the back of my head.
Yeah. And with Substack, it's also the audience that sells your book.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, like I I can't help but like think about that every time I'm working on the proposal that the audience I've built is like part of what will sell the proposal.
I think
Um
that's a good reframe though to remember though. It's part of it. Because
yeah.
like yes, your diehards are going to pre-order your book or they'll just buy it the first time they go into a bookshop and see it or whatever. But like they are just part of it. It is like so important to remember that like if a publisher really loves your book, they are going to market it or they're going to try and get you some interviews. Like you'll get yourself some interviews. Like there are other things than just the newsletter. I know that my old blog definitely helped get pre-orders, but it wasn't the only thing. But so yeah, just to almost take like the tiniest bit of pressure off of it. It's like it's not everything.
Yeah.
It's just
So
part of it.
what is it to you? Like, is Substack your lab? Is it your safe place to write? Is it a business? Do you, obviously we both get income from it, but it's not enough to cover my bills.
No, no, no,
So, like, how do you
no.
categorize Substack? Because you've also been really fluid with your Substack. You've changed the title, you've changed the format, and
Yeah.
from the outside, you have such like easeful flexibility with it, and
Mm,
which I think is really nice because like your readership is getting that email whether or not. The only not is if they choose to click unsubscribe. At the end of the day, it
yeah,
doesn't matter so much what it's called. Um,
it's
but,
true.
like, talk to me a little about that, like, what is Substack to you and, like, how are you so easeful with changing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I without it's almost like without too much backstory, something I can say is that like I had a traumatic experience in 2019 that resulted in me not writing for 3 years. And so when I went back, like when I joined Substack, it was very much for me a feeling of I just actually want to come back to a writing practice. So what there was no feeling for me of like, and it's going to be this thing and it's going to make me a bunch of money and I'm going to write about these topics. And I didn't have like a content strategy or like I had no idea of what I was going to do or what I was going to write about. It was just like I almost just miss being a writer and I wanted to get my writerly brain back. And that actually took a long time. Writerly brain being like when you're walking out in the world and something, you see something and you're like, oh, I could use this analogy and I could piece these things together. Like, honestly, I was on Substack for like a year and a half before I felt like that was actually coming back. So I would say it has been a safe space. That's what it has been for me, is like it was a place I moved my old email list who I had written to, I don't know, 4 times in like 3 years. So I moved my old list over and just started writing. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so all of it has been just me coming back to writing, figuring out how, I mean, honestly, the first couple of years, there was so much happening for me that it was actually just quite depressing. Probably. And like I ended up like archiving like 100+ posts because I'm like, I don't actually want these to be out there anymore. I just needed to write. Like I just needed to write and get things out. But it very much like with a safe space. So like there are lots of posts that I would have only shared with paid subscribers. Um and now it feels different still. Right now I'm experimenting with it just being a paid only thing, which means there's like, I don't know, 12,000 people who will not be getting most of the emails I send out. But that feels very right for where I'm at now. I think I'm in an interesting place, and I'm starting to wonder if it is because I could see that this book could become a reality, and maybe I'm going a little bit inward, almost like a little bit of protection. I'm not sure, but like I think that there is something happening for me of like I've been sharing my life very publicly for like 15 years and I'm starting to feel like that feels done. And so I don't know what it looks like long term, but I'm just kind of experimenting with it being a smaller audience for now.
Love that. I
Yeah.
mean, for the book, do you have a reader in mind? Are they the same as your Substack audience, as your
Yeah.
paid subscribers?
Yeah, and probably lots of readers. Probably lots of readers. I think that something that's been interesting for me to notice the more I've been working on the proposal is like without giving too much away, it's like I actually almost see how it like perfectly bookends with The Year of Less. And it almost feels like a nice little trilogy, or maybe like Adventures went off on a bit of an adventure. Uh, but like the two feel like they could be bookends to something that I could then tuck aside and just be like, that's what I wanted to say on those topics, and now it's all over there. So
Well, that makes me super
yeah,
excited. I can't wait to see what the book is. I'm ready
well,
for
we'll
my
see.
Cait Flanders trilogy.
I don't know if there's such a thing as like a nonfiction trilogy, but like let's roll with it.
I love the idea. So talk to me a little about like a sustainable creative life. I mean, it sounds like you're like working on that, but that's like a lot of your writing is about what is sustainable, what is being
Hmm.
inhabited in your life. So how do you do that creatively?
That's a good question. It makes me think of that values quiz that you shared in a Substack once, which I then went and did, and how it was actually quite shocking for me at first when I read the results that it was like my number one value was basically like putting joy and pleasure first. And I I don't know why it surprises me so much because if I then sit and like take stock of a day or a week of my life, I'm like, no, I do that. But that maybe because that was a hard one, like that was like a hard won battle almost to be able to get to.
Mhm.
So it's almost just like I guess the reality is like over the past many years, I just do it for play. Like I want it to be playful and I want it to be expressive. I also don't give my creativity really to anyone else, meaning like I don't write for anyone else anymore. I'll edit, and that's like, I guess, a different kind, but sort of like my original ideas, like I don't give them, or I don't do that for anyone else anymore. Um, and I think that's been part of it for me. It was kind of like, it's just knowing myself. Like, it's like, I don't think that I could do this. Like what I really want, which is like to have, yes, multiple books. Like if I had big visions for myself, it's like I have a third nonfiction, then I try out maybe writing fiction for kids, try something else. Like I want it to all be kind of fun and playful, but for me that means I can't give it all to somebody else. So I'll
Yeah.
find other ways to make money, but the writing isn't what goes to anyone else.
I love what an advocate you are for middle grade fiction.
Oh
Love
yeah,
middle
big
grade
time.
fiction. It's so
Big.
good.
It is so good. Yeah.
Hmm.
It is so good.
Um,
Yeah.
And it makes
so
me
I did.
sad because I volunteer at the library at my daughter's middle school and they're reading like ACOTAR. And I'm just like, there's so much better age appropriate fiction for these kids out there.
Yes. I'm like,
Yeah,
don't
they're
even,
gonna.
we could have an hour-long conversation on middle grade, but I'm definitely an advocate for adults reading some occasionally, even if it's like two a year. The amount of imagination and also, yeah, lessons and empathy and creativity that goes into middle grade it's mind-boggling. It's so much better, I think, than anything we got to read.
I think one of the
Uh,
best books I've read in the last couple of years is a middle grade fiction book. And I think the author's name is Barnville. Do you know what I'm talking
okay.
about? The
No.
Ogress and the Orphan. It is like one of the best written books I've read. And Kelton, you would love it because the crows talk, like all the,
Ooh.
like there's a rock that's sentient that talks. The crows talk and they are so full of themselves. They're such great characters.
Ooh.
You would love it. But anyway, sorry not to go on a
No,
middle
this is
grade
good.
fiction
This is
tangent.
Well, I want Kate to take us on a few reading tangents right now. I want you to describe the reading challenge that you're doing. Because I'm like
Oh.
really enthralled by this as a way to like expand your horizons of books.
Yeah, it's again, it's just meant to be totally playful, right? Like, and so I'm having a ridiculous amount of fun with it. Like, even so, it was all born from, I think, one thing which was like, well, maybe two things. One is recognizing I have so many friends who seem to have like these huge passions for things, or they get so into things, and it could be books, or it's something else, a musician, or whatever. Like, they get really obsessed with something, and and like reflecting on the fact that I'm 40 years old and like I don't think I've had that other than maybe whatever celebrity boy crushes I had at like 12. Like I don't think I've had anything like that since I was a kid. And and so I was like sitting with that as a thought, then also noticing there are so many kinds of books that I avoid reading, but I don't actually really pay attention to why. I think I do like make a quick judgment or something and I just kind of push them aside. But I don't know, I put my curiosity hat on and one day I was just like, what would it be like if I just read a bunch of things that I would normally never read? Like what would that experience actually be like?
So, what's the
Um,
structure of the challenge?
so I've picked 10. I'm doing it for a year. I think I'll probably only pick 10 genres though, because I do know there's 2 months where I'll be traveling quite a bit, so I probably won't really read all that much. But I'm picking 10, and for each month I'm just going to read a few books from that genre, and I'm just kind of paying attention to what my observations, including judgments or assumptions, are. And so I'm not writing like book reviews necessarily, but more paying attention to how it actually was and almost like what is my comparison between what my initial judgments were or assumptions to how it actually was. And then it's just, I genuinely have a curiosity of like maybe like could I find something I really like that maybe I haven't been reading? And I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. We're only a month and a half
What are
in.
what are some of the genres that you resist the most?
Oh, and I'll say it fully with my judgmental face so that we all can remember this is who I was at the beginning. Romantasy is a big one where I'm like, that's a hard pass for me. Like
A
I
lot
don't
of
know
really
all
bad romantasy. That's why.
probably yeah,
Yeah.
probably. But it's like that's like a big one that shows up for me. I'd say fantasy though in general. I think like I do actually because I've been researching so many books, what I am noticing is that something happens in my brain almost like reading about all these like imagined worlds that someone's come up with, because there's so much language that I don't think my brain understands at first. And I think so there's some kind of disconnect that happens almost when I'm reading the description, because I'm like, what are they even saying? And so I'm like, I don't know how to get like drawn in, right? So I'm like, there's something in that, because I'm like, I don't think it's going to be true that I don't like them all. I think there's something though almost in the packaging that isn't working for me. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And sci-fi
good
too.
Oh, oh, my
No, I
favorite genres.
know.
A good fantasy or sci-fi writer knows how to incorporate the world building in a way that doesn't make the reader struggle to enter into
Yeah.
the story. So
Yeah.
if you want some recommendations, let me know.
Definitely. Well, and I will say, like, as I'm researching them, I'm then finding ones where I'm like, oh, I'm actually really excited to read that. Or like, then I'm remembering, oh, actually, I've read a bunch of like kind of dystopian stuff that I have really liked. And so I'm like, I don't know what it is about the label almost
Mm.
that deters me. Because then when I'm researching some, I'm like, oh no, I feel very excited to read this book and that book. So yeah, but I definitely take recommendations too. But it's just those are the ones that I immediately, and I do think for me there is something in the fact that it doesn't feel like grounded in reality, or like something in the language that isn't immediately gripping me. Like I'm getting lost just in reading the description.
And that is how I felt jumping from reading Throne of Glass and Akatar to Crescent City.
Okay.
I mean, like, real Moss heads, like, love that series, that part of the broader Moss universe, and I tried to read that book and was like, what the fuck is happening?
What
Well,
is
it's a
this?
very poorly written book. Like, Sarah J. Maas is not a good writer. Okay, let's just put that out there.
Listen, I don't agree. I don't agree.
I haven't read anything.
breezed through most of her
Sure, but did
series.
you read Twilight in a minute too? That's still, if you go back and read.
No.
Oh, really? Because
But
I read those books so fast, and they were so badly written when you go back and look at them.
Yeah, but like, I think Moss is a propulsive writer. Like, I wanted to read that whole series immediately, and I do think that is good writing. Maybe it's not literary writing, but
I'm not being snobby about it. I think it's just
I'll defend something bad if I think it's fun.
sure.
But I mean,
Okay,
I wanted to try.
Don't read Sarah J. Maas, please.
Yeah, like, don't
But I'm
start
like-
with that one. We have better
No, maybe don't
recommendations.
start, but like, don't I have to in the way of
No.
like understanding what is popular? No.
There's
No.
really good romantasy. Like, you should read
Okay.
that. Don't torture
Okay.
yourself.
Okay.
Don't
Save
set your
myself from
experiment up
Akatar.
for failure. Yeah, by like reading bad romantasy, because it'll just confirm your initial judgment of that you don't want to read it.
Okay. That's
know?
very fair. That's fair. Okay.
But I just want to say, because something you said got me really excited, which is a kids, like a picture book around the ideas of the Year of Less. Can you please publish that? Because I would love to give it to my children, because kids are the worst consumers of garbage and crap. And like, I've had to institute a allowance system just so I could curb their consumption, because I'm obviously also to blame, but like starting to instill some of those ideas of what that does to themselves and the environment would be great. And I'm trying, but it's really hard.
Yeah. It is
That would be
really
a great
hard.
kids book.
Yeah, it is really hard too, though, because and this part does make a lot of sense, and I think because you guys both have kids, and Kelton, you'll get this as he gets older, is like it's so hard for kids to get rid of things, because what lives in their room is their whole world.
Mhm.
So they don't understand, like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's like that is their whole universe.
Oh yeah. Like, there's a toy they haven't touched for a year, and you're like, I'm gonna send this to Goodwill, and they're like, no, that's stuffy. That's my favorite stuffy. And then for a week, it like is attached to them, and then they forget about it again. You're like, well,
doing a lot of one in, one out already. He has a giveaway box, and he gets to take it to his friends who are younger. So we're trying. It doesn't mean it will stick, and it doesn't mean that he won't develop these like huge attachments, but we are trying in the beginning.
So hard.
Put that in the box for Peter.
Oh god.
Not with books though. I am like, you want a book? We're gonna get that book.
I know. I do buy books without.
Yeah.
Yeah, without hesitation.
All right. So tell me top 3 books you're thinking about right now, not your own. What's in your mind? What's on your nightstand?
Oh, okay. So, well, thinking about a nightstand, they're almost like different questions. So I would say the 2 books that I have enjoyed the most in the last, and like enjoyed, and also because like you finish it just thinking, oh my God, someone wrote that. And also like in some ways it was so simple, or like the idea was so simple, but like what a great idea. One is actually middle grade. It's called October. The author's name is Katya Balen. And I think you would really enjoy it. It's about her living in the woods with her dad. And it also, like, her writing is so fast paced. Like you just it's just so raw, it's so good. And it was one of the first books where I was like, middle grade gets to read what? Like it was like, we didn't get books like this, I don't think. So that's one that has like stuck with me. The other was, I just read, I think it was like November, December. I read The Names by Florence Knapp, which is like getting a lot of coverage right now. But like the idea is so, I don't know if either of you have read it. Like it's so good. It's about her. She is pregnant with her second child. She knows what she wants to name it. Her abusive husband knows what he wants to name it. And her daughter, who's like, I don't know, 5 or something when he's born, knows what she wants to name it. And what she does is she shares the 3 names, and the chapters follow what their lives would be like if she
cool.
had picked all of them. So it's like, if it was this name, this is what happened, and if it was this name, this is what happened to everybody. It was so
cool.
like,
That's
and it's such
cool.
a simple thing, but you're like, she did it so well.
That's cool.
Can you believe
I'm a big
that one of my
believer in
names
names.
one of my names was gonna be Molly?
Okay, I can't see that now.
You would have been
that
very
up
different
now.
if you were a Molly for sure. I was almost Kelly, so that would have been.
Wow.
Yeah,
My
I
mom just
know.
told me the names, like if I was a boy, and I was like, why and why? One of them was Dustin, and I'm like, that is so 80s.
It is.
So
We are children of
80s.
the 80s, so
We are.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one that's so what's on my nightstand right now, I'm just gonna put my judgmental hat on and be like, it feels like it's garbage. I picked it up from the little free library in our like little village. It's one of, her name's Frieda McFadden. She writes like a lot of
Oh
popular
yeah.
thrillers.
Yeah.
And it's The Housemaid, which is like
Yep.
her most popular book. And I pulled it very much with the thought of like, I might like it, I might not. Like, I'm not sure if like kind of they're gonna be right for me. And like 5 pages in, I was like, this is garbage for me, right? Like that's my opinion. I'm like, I just feel like the character development is so lacking, that I'm like, I don't know how all these things are happening. It just feels very rushed, I guess would be the word for
They
it.
made
So
a
I'm,
movie out of it.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's a big thing right now. So these are the moments where like I read things that are so popular, and then I'm like, what's wrong with me that I
This is
don't
what I feel
like?
about half of Substack.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. So anyways,
You're like,
I'm like 50 pages in, and I'm just sitting with that thought of like, I could rush through it because it's so easy. So I could finish it and kind of see what all the fuss is about, but I'm not sure that I want to.
all
So
right. Well, I loved this. I want
Busy
to talk
today.
to you forever. But can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
yeah, I mean, I'm on Substack and I'm on Instagram. So Substack, I think actually both are under my name, right? Like caitflanders.substack.com. And Instagram's just at Cait Flanders. And those are the only places you'll find me.
What a dream. So simple. Hey, it
So
was such a
simple.
pleasure to have you on. I love seeing you in the flesh, even digitally. Thank
It
you
was so
for
nice.
being such a friend to me and to the pod. And we will talk about my proposal soon.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will, friend. It was so nice to meet you, Krisserin.
Nice to meet you, Kate. All
Okay,
right.
I'll see you guys later. Bye.
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 Well, Kelton, I just feel like you and Kate are like, you have a shared value system. So much of what, she's written about or things that you talk about. It was so nice to be able to hear from her.
Yeah, I treasure her. She's such a good example of what can come from just starting a friendship with someone online. just leaving constant comments and trying to become someone's friend. You know, we talk about that all the time. That's just like a core element of not only succeeding in your craft, but enjoying it. You have to have people along for the ride. Like if I had not had you and Cait to like send that screenshot of the agent rejection to this past week, like I just wouldn't have told anyone. I wouldn't have told anyone. I mean, I would have told Ben.
I was going to say, you're not going to tell Ben?
I would have told Ben. I haven't told Ben yet because we've been in like the like chaos of life. And so I just like want to have a private conversation with him where it's not just like people and toddlers and etc. But Cait she reminds me too that it's like, you got to be in the trenches for a while, and you and her are good optimists to my ever-present doom and gloom.
Jeez. Well, I think that Cait's advice, and it was my advice too, which is like just like step away for a little bit, is sound, because you do need time to rebuild your reserves of, you know, having the energy to go back to something that you've worked so hard on, knowing you have so much hard work left to do. So with that being said, what are your goals for the week, Kelton?
Oh, God. I mean, inevitably, my goals are to work on finalizing those chapter summaries and to like take a step back and just look at the proposal as a whole. I don't know if that's my goal, really. That's my have to do. So that is on my to-do list. But my goal is, you know what? I'm going to be honest. My goal is to read a book this week. I just need to go read something else.
Nice. Well, can I recommend The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas? I finished it.
I'm waiting to get it in the mail, but I do I'm going to read Jeff VanderMeer's Annihilation this week.
Oh my God, I just added that to my TBR.
Oh,
I was
nice.
thinking of, his book on writing, on structure is really good too. If you're like, and it's beautiful. It's like illustrated and gorgeous if you're looking for a fun book to read about writing in the meantime.
Nice.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. I just breezed through another future guest's book. I read Rachel Hochhauser's Lady Tremaine. So I've got like the reading itch. So I've got a stack ready to go.
That's great.
What's your goal?
My goal. So I'm going to chat with Kima tomorrow. Hopefully she's gotten through it. It's also Ramadan just started this week. So she is fasting, and that I think will have an impact on whether or not she's, has the energy to get to my book. But I think outside of any homework that she gives me, I have the itch to start writing again. Not necessarily the second book in my series, but I have like some fun ideas that are percolating. So I think that sitting down and doing some of that would be fun. I wrote some like new short story ideas that I have down. And so, reading good fiction inspires me to write. And I think that like after getting out of reading Isabel Cañas's book, I'm like, I have some ideas. So that's my goal, is just to like write something, even not like a complete something, but just to like write something. And that's really it. Other than that, there's really nothing else on my to be done list. But
I think we've earned a quiet week.
You definitely have. I feel like I got to start getting back into it. And maybe it's also because it is Ramadan and I'm seeing all of this content in my TikTok feed about people getting up at, 5 to eat and to pray. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I really enjoy that ritual myself. Obviously, I'm not Muslim, but the ritual of like getting up and being contemplative and spending some time early in the morning is something that I enjoy doing. And I think I might be ready to get back into that routine pretty soon. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, as always, we would love to hear from you guys. You know where to reach us at officialpenpalspod@gmail.com, penpalspod on all the platforms. You can follow me at Kelton Writes or Kelton Kin when I figure out what I'm doing there. You can follow Krisserin on TikTok at Krisserin, and you can follow Krisserin's writing at krisserin.substack.com, and you can follow my writing at shangrilogs.substack.com. Know that we are in the trenches with you. What do we say? Miserable writing? Tired writing? What is it again? Oh, right. Happy writing.
Happy writing.